I'm alive again, alive again, and I'm alive again, alive again. I'm alive again, I'm alive again, I'm alive again.
So welcome to my home. You are joining me in the greater Phoenix area here, in the desert of Arizona. This is one of my favorite rooms in the house. This is where my baby grand piano lives. It's a Baldwin from the 90s when they still used to make these in America. Beautiful soundboard. Gotta be quiet though because my kids are asleep. I live here with my 2 children, my husband and my dog. The music making, a little different these days since I became a mother, but it still happens, it's still important, and I'm about to show you where it all happens. We used to live in Boston and New York City, so we're used to some pretty small spaces. And one of my favorite things about this house is that there's a dedicated room for my studio. I identify really as like an electronic singer-songwriter, and I'm mostly living in a digital world, but also I'm really into analog gear as well. So I'm going to show you my toys, show you the stuff I use to get the job done. Okay, so one of my favorite things about this is just the way that the room sounds. We moved here right that first summer of the pandemic, and I just needed a place to work. You know, being a mom and having a really intense job, it's important to have your own space, and now that we had the space and I had the time and the money to do this at my point in my career, I really did everything I ever wanted to do with the space. So you can see the paneling all around here along the walls, and then up top here on the ceiling we got the cloud panels. So I worked with Gavin Haverstick from Haverstick Designs on the build of the space. And then you can see these really interesting panels. These are called Flex 48s. You can actually pop this plexiglass off. And so when it's on, it becomes a diffuser. And then when it's off, it's actually absorption. So you can change the room depending on if you are tracking in here or if you're mixing. And when you're sitting dead center in mixing position, it is just dead dry up in here. And that's what I need for when I'm mixing. I always wanted my own dedicated mixing space, and now I have it. So I'm a big Moog person, and I own several of their synthesizers. This is the grandmother. One of my favorite things about it is the spring reverb that's built in. So if you pick it up and drop it or bang it on the side, you can actually hear the spring in action, which was one of the main reasons I bought it, actually. I'm all for patch points and being able to be flexible with your hardware, but I also believe that the less knobs you have, the more creative you can be. So this is one of my favorite synthesizers of all time, second to the little fatty that they no longer make, and I'm a fool for having sold about 7 years ago. You know, you gotta have the lanyards from all of the conferences, AES, South by Southwest, Gearfest, CMJ. This is an old one for all you New Yorkers who know about CMJ. No longer around, RIP. The place where I sit and do my thing. These are the Focal Shape 50s, and then I have a sub down there as well, a PreSonus sub. Between the two of those, it sounds really good in here. It's like just far enough back for some of those low frequencies to travel the length that they need to. These are the synths and the analog pedals that I have. The Minotaur, not so many knobs, but super powerful bass synth. I use this all of the time. And then especially in conjunction with these 2 mini Fogers. Once you go analog pedal, you don't go back. And then usually I'm sending the synthesizer sequences from a push. I like to do some like expressive MIDI message stuff with some Max devices in conjunction with the hardware. So again, sort of that like digital analog overlap. That's where I get excited, when the technology is expressive. Okay, so I've got 2 mic setups. I've got my AT4050 up here, sort of ready to rock at all times. Over here I've got this custom Telefunken M80 for anytime I need to sound really good on the internet. And then if I ever need to track a vocal or an instrument, I'm going with the AT mic. I don't have a ton of stuff in my home studio because I actually have a massive studio at my regular workplace, which is at ASU. Forks up, y'all. So in terms of keyboards, I did a stint with ROLI for a while, and I became obsessed with MPE, multi-dimensional polyphonic expressive data. I can't get enough of these keyboards and any MPE enabled virtual synthesizers. So I'm using Equator, I'm using Omnisphere, I'm using Serum, I'm using Wavetable. And so I've got my 49 key keyboard, my 25 key C board. And then over here, I've got my 25 key mini C board with the light pad blocks. Traditional, just 49 key keyboard for inputting regular MIDI, which is something I don't do that often. And then here is a melodica. I play this on stage a lot, or if I'm like tuning vocals and I just need some sort of point of reference that's not in the computer, I like to mess with this thing. Used to be in a reggae band actually, and I got really into melodica. Strange but true. I've had so many interfaces in my life, but at the end of the day, my heart belongs to Apogee and Focusrite. So usually I'm rocking the Apogee stuff for my home studio. So this is an Element 24. I'm also a big fan of the Duet. And then Focusrite, I've got 18 i20s, 2 i4s, 6 i6s. When you are an electronic musician and you're playing live, like having a variety of I/O is critical. So I have a crap load of interfaces. This is my logo here, Mama Barra. When I was in college, people used to call me that. I just like to take care of people, you know? I want people to feel loved and nurtured. And then that sort of just followed me through my career, and now as a teacher and a mother, it just makes a lot of sense. And then down here, you can see the Beats by Girlz logo. I run an organization that has chapters all over the world, empowering women and gender minorities through music and technology. Similar to Gender Amplified, shout out to Ebony and the team. This is a really important piece of art for me. This is the program from Loop 2015. That was the very first Loop that ever happened, which is a conference that Ableton puts on. I was surprised by being part of the keynote speak when they introduced Push 2, and it was just like a hugely pivotal moment in my life. And I always get to look at this and remember how amazing that was for me. Up here, we've got that degree of mine. So employable. But yes, actually. A couple records. This is Half Wave. I'm actually wearing a Half Wave shirt right now. This was not on purpose, but I'm obsessed. So you should check her out, New York artist, Half Wave. Body Rate. This is a cool piece of algorithmic art by an artist named Zach Lieberman that I'm totally into. I'm learning Touch Designer right now, so getting into digital art. Up here, these are all my old laptop cases. Cool piece of little VHS art from one of the Beats by Girlz chapters up here. One of the other most important parts of any studio is storage. The closet has to have a vibe too, you know. It's not just the place where the boxes belong. It's where the vibe continues. Never throw away a box. You never know when you're gonna need to resell something. Eventually you outgrow gear, and so it's important to hold on to things. And I am so lucky that I have this after having lived in like a 900 square foot apartment with my family and like shoving things into corners. This is cool. Having a closet is cool. Got my little bookcase of trinkets, books, things that are important to me. Here's my wristband, my artist wristband from Moogfest 2019. That's what's up. And thanks for coming. See you next time.